Trek, the original series. What are little girls made of? Season 1, episode 9 from 1966 is over, and it's been for a long time, but we're just getting started here on TED Treks here on Live Long and Podcast as we cover the original series. I'm Dave Mader, coming at with Star Trek TV and movie reviews. Bringing in next the namesake of this podcast, my dad, Ted. How are you doing, Dad?
I'm doing good, thanks.
It's good.
Got my Corby Cup hat on tonight for Roger Corby.
Well, but he's with a K. He's a Corby with a K. That's a Corby with a C.
I know, but I didn't have time to get this C.
Okay, we'll forgive it. We'll forgive it. All right, bringing in next is esteemed panelist Jody Simpson. How are you doing, Jody?
Well, hello, Dave. How are you?
Hello. Nice. I see you've added some background things, including a classic Game Boy, if I'm not mistaken.
That's always been there. I just think the frame's been messed up. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff there.
Very good, very good. And bringing in next is esteemed panelist Adam Woodward. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm great. Happy Inauguration Day.
Happy Inauguration Day. It is January 20th.
Trump Day.
Yeah. It's the first day of the Biden administration or the last day of the Trump administration, depending on which way you want to look at it. Is January 20th, 2021. And we're here to talk about an episode from 55 years ago. So this should be good. But yes,
which is not relevant at all to today's events.
Not specifically. I don't know, but I think there's some interesting things to get into tonight. Yeah. So, Dad, last week we said, what are we watching? You said, what are little girls made of? And it was not an episode title I knew off the bat. So, what did you think of this episode tonight?
This was a very scary episode as a little kid watching this.
Yeah, you said this was scary.
It was the first time ever that somebody fell into a bottomless pit.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what exactly.
An 8-year-old kid falling into a bottomless pit was pretty scary.
Right.
Just imagine that for a minute. You fell into a bottomless pit.
Yeah,
the only other one who fell into a bottomless pit was Catwoman in a Batman episode in the Adam West days. She fell into a bottomless pit.
Well, if there's no bottom, then you would never hit it and you wouldn't die.
I know, no, but you could never stop to get any dinner.
No, okay, you could be in limbo. So that was the scary part. I wasn't sure what exactly scared you about this. I thought maybe it was being turned into an android.
Yeah, that bottomless pit.
What about just the big old lurch guy? I mean, he was pretty scary.
Yeah, well, he was the guy who threw you into the bottomless pit.
yeah, he threw Matthews. Matthews was the first to go of the two red shirts, and later on, it's Rayburn is the other red shirt that gets beamed down. And so this is like as we mentioned, this is a first season episode. This is the first introduction of the Christine Chappell character, and she's a big part of this show, as played by Majel Barrett. Later, Majel Barrett Roddenberry, the wife of Gene Roddenberry and mother of Rod Roddenberry, formerly as number one in the original pilot. And here she's back in this new role. So let's go over to Jody next. Jody, what did you think? What are little girls made of? What was this episode for you?
Dialogue and boredom, I think, is probably the easiest way to explain that. I don't know. This episode was boring. I'm sorry. It was boring. It took me 3 attempts to go through it all because I just kept thinking of other things to do. So I don't know. It's overall, like, I guess it's not a terrible story, but it's predictable all the way through. Like, there's no doubt, so-and-so's an android, all this. Like, there was no doubt at all. Like, to me, I think it's a very weak written episode, in my opinion, compared to a lot of the other great episodes we've seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think there's some merits to that. Let's go to Adam next. Adam, this is maybe one of the earliest science fiction android stories on television. Is that maybe why it's kind of obvious, to Jody's point, maybe why we kind of see all these big things coming?
Well, since Ted keeps saying to us, 1968 or whenever this episode came out, you got to look at it in that time, right?
Right.
And I was quite entertained by this episode. I thought it was great. Jody, I can see how you were bored in the beginning, but then I started getting into it. Where is this episode going? Some inconsistencies and weird things. If a guy's falling into a bottomless pit, why can't they just beam him out? I don't get that, but
depends on how far he is, I guess.
Yeah, maybe they can't get a lock on him.
The planet.
But that was the guy who plays Lurch, right, on the Munsters.
Same guy.
The Addams Family. Actually, this is his character is called Ruck. Dad, remember this guy in the episode?
Yep, Ruck.
Ruck. And this was played by the same guy who played Lurch on the Addams Family in the original.
There goes another fun fact.
Sorry.
Fun fact. But
I'm gonna have nothing left.
Well, okay, and I know I'm jumping the gun here on one of your fun facts, but also the Addams Family movies that were made in the 90s. This man had died by then, so they cast another Star Trek alumni. This guy, Carol Strucken, who played Mr. Hom on Next Generation, and was Loxana Troy, also played by Majel Barrett Roddenberry, like sort of assistant in those episodes. But he played Lurch in the movies that they made later on. Anyway, but this guy who plays Rock, this guy was a monster. He was picking up Shatner like he was nothing. It's played by Ted Cassidy. He is a presence in this episode.
Now, one thing I will say about this episode, though, is the makeup was very well done. Mm-hmm. All the effects, especially later on when you see his hand gets like cut open. I can't remember the guy's name. The main. Corby, yeah. So when all of a sudden you have his like kind of arm there, and there's all these little circuitry and stuff like that, they did a great job on that. For even that time period, it was fantastic. Like it's great.
So as much as a next gen fan I am, I can't remember any references from Next Gen to this Android episode.
No. Yeah, like there's a couple more. This is the first Android episode in Star Trek original series. It's not the last. Yeah. There's other androids introduced, spoken to, but I think this is one of the earliest. And it's kind of like there's that whole sequence where we see Rock, who's doing all the voice impersonations. And I guess if we're looking at this through the 1966 lens, when this episode debuted, that was impressive. But I'm watching this tonight. And it's like for me, it's a tired trope cliche that's been done over and over and over again of androids can impersonate your voice. But I guess in 1966, oh my God, a machine could impersonate my voice.
They didn't even have answering machines for phones at this point. Like, come on.
Right. But what is the emotion meant to be invoked there? Is sort of there's supposed to be like intriguing, I guess. As we see in a lot of these episodes, right? Where they had the computer in the one episode, like, oh, well, the computer can do this or the computer can do that. It was kind of all these hypotheticals of where technology could take us, good or bad, right? That they're kind of brought up here.
Well, it was the evils, yeah. It was the evils of technology and stuff like that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then like later on, obviously Data in Next Generation is the major android character we know, and so this is a kind of a setup to those things. But it's also this episode about Christine Chapel, really, too, and who.
Am I the only person that does not care about this character at all? Like
I don't like Christine Chapel. I
never liked her, and.
She's in your picture there. She's right behind Kirk's right arm there in your backdrop.
Her boobs are to Kirk's mouth, which makes a lot of sense, really, when you think about it.
But
I do like Andrea.
Who doesn't? Let's be honest.
Yeah, her outfit is not something that.
There she is.
There she is. Yeah, there's Christine Chapel there.
But I have no problem with her, just so you know.
There she is with Rock.
You know how futuristic though that costume that's worn by that android there is, and back in 1965 or whatever.
I imagine that that's
a lot of
heads.
That's a lot of duct tape. That's all I can tell you.
You know what's so funny? The other guy, the other guy at the beginning of the episode that was in with the exact same uniform on, except he had a tank or a turtleneck on,
an undershirt.
It's funny.
Yeah, Brown, who dies pretty early in the episode.
Somebody's freezing and somebody's really hot.
Well, there is. Spoiler, they're androids.
Christine Chapel, and we talked about this in the movies. Like famously, she's the one character from the original series, like the core cast, that didn't get to really be in the movies. Was kind of this character that was abandoned, and maybe Jody's saying justifiably so.
I'm okay with it. I really am. Think about this for a second, Dave. I'll give you the worst case scenario. Star Trek the motion picture with her in it. That makes it worse, and that's already bad.
Well, she was the.
wasn't.
I don't
She
even know.
wasn't.
She's not in it. They mention her.
They mention her. She's not in it.
Yeah,
Was
she's not.
she
remember
Steve
being in it.
Roddenberry's girlfriend?
Wife. Yeah,
Well, it was his
Wife?
wife eventually. Yeah.
yeah. But
She was his mistress at the point.
originally
at this point.
his mistress, and then his wife. You know, and so
Adam's got his Google face on. I can see it.
Yeah.
He's looking it up right now. He's like, "Does Jody and Dave know what they're talking about?"
You do know what you're talking about. I just wanted to see it for myself.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
But it's you know, and she was originally going to play number 1 on the original pilot with
Yes.
Pike, right? Which
I think maybe might have been a better character.
well, it was a better character, and it's the character
Yeah.
that now Rebecca Romaine Stamos O'Connell has now taken up in the Strange New Worlds show that we'll see eventually. But that this Christine Chapel character is a much more passive, kind of stereotypical 60s woman prototype, even though she's meant to be in the 23rd century time frame, that she was going to marry this Roger Corby. Like he was her fiance, or it still is. I'm not quite clear, but she doesn't go with him to this planet called XO3, and that's kind of what the whole premise of the episode is. That she gave up a life of bio research to serve in Starfleet, and so when this chance comes for the Enterprise to meet up with this planet, it's a big deal, I guess.
They never did another Nurse Chapel centric episode, did they?
Well,
Like she was in a couple other ones for sure.
Yeah, there's
but,
that time that Spock threw the soup at her, famously. And
Yes. But she's not the main character in there. Like this is
She's never-
his story really revolves around her.
I don't
And
think
then
she ever gets as
eventually Kirk.
much attention as she does in this episode. Like,
Yeah, okay.
I can't think of an example. But
Do you think maybe this was one of those things like, you know, hey Michelle, like you know, we'll do things, you know, after hours kind of thing, and in return I'll give you a centric episode. Do you think that might have been it?
well, I've never thought of her. She let's think about this. She's played 4 if you count the start, like the voice of the computer. Like she's a good actor, or she was a good actor. She's passed.
No debate. I it's the character itself I don't like, not her.
She played Loxana Troy. You know, in
Very
Next
well.
Generation. She
Well,
As well as you can
No,
for an annoying
she
character
died.
like that.
she died like 10 years ago, I think.
It was about 10 years, I think. Yeah.
She was in the motion picture, guys.
Okay,
What?
but like not in a significant way.
No, but she was in it.
Okay, and she was also in
She
Star
was
Trek.
on screen too? Really? I don't remember that.
She was on screen for Star Trek 4 for like a second, but they,
Yeah, she
like,
was on that one.
as opposed to Uhura, Chekhov, these other secondary
Yeah,
characters,
fair enough.
she's not given the due, right?
See, I just went, Adam, I just went, okay, you're good. Dave's like, how dare you? I know my Star Trek, damn you.
So do I.
It wasn't a major character.
Well, don't say
I'm
she's
just
not
kidding,
in
Dave,
it.
I'm just kidding.
That's all. She's not.
Yeah, well, I like, Dad. Do you like the character? That's my question to you. Do you like the Christine Chapel?
Yeah, I like that. Yep.
You do. Okay.
Yeah, she's okay. I mean, she played a role in that story. So it was, you had to get her. If it wasn't her, who was it? Who else could it be on the Enterprise?
It could have been any officer. They could have just.
They could have made up
character
any story to get them there. Like, let's be honest. Like, the Enterprise
know,
could have
but
broke
we
down
need-
near the planet
We
for all we know.
needed a woman on the crew, and it wasn't going to be Aurora. So that was the next
Uhura.
best one. Look at the main picture that's behind me. She's obviously got a major position in that picture compared to Aurora.
Yeah. Well, I think that
She's a blonde white woman.
She's a major.
Like, this is what, 67?
I think
that makes
it's,
sense.
I think she is. I think you can call her a definitive member of the TOS crew. Like she's not just a background character like some of the other ones.
Oh, no, she's way major here than she is in the movies. That's for sure.
Yeah, and so but she's omitted from the movies, and maybe for good reasons. Maybe she just wasn't a popular character. I don't know.
Popular with Harry Mudd.
This whole story, this whole episode,
Harry Mudd.
is like, you know, they're showing up and they make this big deal about who Corby is. Corby is like this legend in the Federation. This is a series of these people they show us. Corby.
They do this in Star Trek all the time, though.
They do it all the time.
This is a normal thing. Like, don't make it sound like it's terrible or something. This is normal.
I don't know. Did I do that?
The guy in the penal colony.
Yeah, you kind of made it sound like it was a bad idea, you know.
I don't know. Okay.
It's all good, Dave. It's all good.
I wasn't intending to do any of that. I'm just
That's all right. It's all
stating
good,
the facts. But the episode is like got a lot of weird camera angles too, especially this early scene where we're constantly shooting Shatner and Barrett like sort of from down below and looking up. That was done quite a bit. But the whole episode in that beginning bridge scene, everything before like the credits and just shortly after like the credits is very weird to me. There's even that where they finally get Corby on like the comm, and there's these two people standing behind Chapel and Kirk that are so weird, just standing there.
I didn't notice that.
Looking at them talking to Corby on the thing, I guess to kind of imply he's a celebrity of sorts, maybe. And then like when Chapel goes into the turbolift with Kirk, there's like this weird moment between Uhura and Chapel where they go like I don't quite get what I'm supposed to take from
that. Was one girl saying to another that you're going to see your fiance.
But are they fiance? Is it her fiance? Yeah. She hasn't seen him in 5 years.
I know. Well, she was a former fiance, I guess, because they're not obviously.
I'm not quite clear what was going on with that Andrea android. Did she have a thing going with Corby or not? It's kind of strange. But okay, that's what it was. It was like, oh, you're gonna see your fiance, your ex-fiance. How amazing! And that's my her impression.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
So,
I was impressed with that, by the way, Dave.
Thank you. I was going to impress you there.
You can do that in Star Trek Theater.
Mission accomplished.
We can play it in Star Trek Theater.
We may just do that. But with the whole, like, then they get down to the planet. He says, don't bring anybody down. Just you. Okay, you can bring Chapel, but that's it. And then he, as soon as he gets down there, there's nobody to meet him. So he immediately calls down 2 security guards who will die. These 2 red shirts. I guess that Kirk does the right thing here. He does all the right things mostly in how he handles this situation. It's hard to put any.
I'm just trying to find these weird people that you're talking about.
They'll be like as soon as they get him on the comm in a minute or 2.
Yeah, I think I'm at the comms part now. Yeah, because they do that. Oh, that was a weird zoom in, eh? You're right.
Yeah. Like it's weird zoom ins. As soon as she sees, like, here.
Oh, look at this.
It's Corby's voice, you know. And I swear I know this Corby actor too. I don't know where I know him from, but I must know him because he's Michael Strong. What the heck has he been?
Michael Strong. Yeah,
he died in 1980, so he's obviously. But you'll see it once they get to the thing. Like
anyway, sorry, I'm not trying to take anything away. I was just wanted to see.
Yeah, but they get this is he's going down these caves. It feels like they're going down and down the caves for a long time. Because he brings 1 security guard with him. He leaves 1 at the entrance of the cave. And then finally they get down there and they're hit with like this big bright spotlight thing that hits them. And it turns out to be this brown guy who Christine Chapel knew before, but he doesn't know her right away. And like, but once she says, "Don't you know me?" he's able to kind of click it in. Which kind of is an allusion to him being a robot, I guess, or an android.
Yeah, well, that's kind of that's what I got from it anyway.
That was Dr. Brown, Dave.
Dr. Emmett Brown?
Yeah, Dr. Brown, yeah.
1.21 gigawatts.
1.21 gigawatts. Yeah, there was Brown was that guy who was wearing the Andrea version of the uniform, but with a turtleneck underneath. Yeah, that guy. It's a real dramatic kind of entrance or whatever. I guess it was meant to invoke fear was kind of the intent here. But shortly after, Buddy Matthews, he's down the bottomless pit. And that's the end of Matthews.
It is what it is.
Kirk, this is like as distraught about losing a man as I've maybe ever seen Kirk be, by the way. He like really looks down into that abyss for a while, compared to maybe some other times he's lost crew members. I
still never found that thing, but anyway.
Yes, but once they kind of like decide to kind of go into, I guess, whatever is their underground living area, which is a cave full of old antique tables and furniture for some reason. Is from like, I guess the 1800s. It looked like a lot of the stuff that they had down in that cave with them. I don't know if it didn't look very modern. Let's just say that. But they
look like a church swap meet.
Yeah, it looked like it's all like from a thrift store or something. Yeah. But this is where they get out, and then when Corby sees Chapel, they immediately start like making out right in front of everybody.
Oh yeah. So they must be still together then.
I guess, right? Like they're obviously gonna kiss each other right away. But he went on this mission 5 years ago and said, "Well, I'll see you in a better part of a decade." I don't get it. Like or she just was like, "Okay, whenever."
But didn't they think that he was dead? Because I mean, they said that other missions had come to the planet and not found him.
Is that okay? Oh, maybe that's the part I missed.
2 other missions.
So he was presumed missing.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Okay, so that's an important detail.
That is an important detail that I seem to have missed somehow.
Yeah, because I just so they've been here. So other ships have been here, but they've never been able to sort of reestablish contact until now. Okay, I got you. But we start seeing more and more of what is his name? Ruck, aka Lurch, is kind of menacing through the caves. And it's later on when Corby Shatner, once he says, "I have to call my ship because my security guard's not in touch," that's when Corby turns on him, pulls the gun on him, and takes him hostage, him and Chapel hostage, effectively. And they start explaining who Ruck is, and they start showing off how he can impersonate voices, and we get a series of Ruck throwing Kirk around like a rag doll. The guy was strong, man. This guy was so strong.
Giant hands.
Oh yeah, massive, like sausage fingers.
It was like Andre the Giant and with Bobby Heenan or something. Like it was. It was just
that sounds about accurate.
Yeah. And I wrote here in my notes, like, Corby is mad. Even this is before Chapel says he's sane later on to Android Kirk. But I was just like, Corby's clearly a madman. And I think that Chapel stays loyal to him in this episode longer than she should. But am I off base with this? Was Chapel just trying here?
I think so.
It's kind of like, is it not consistent with what we see throughout original series with how they show women characters, especially women Starfleet characters, who will consistently always choose man over duty, always choose man over what their obligations are, and what's right.
Yeah, there was that conversation with Android Kirk, who said to her, if I order you to, betray him, will you? Don't ask me to do that.
Don't ask me to do that.
You got to remember, Dave, though, you guys are looking at this from 2020.
Here we go.
Like today, we just had the first vice president in the history of the United States sworn in, and that was 50 years after this aired.
55.
55 years after this aired. So back then, women had no say in anything. Like it was just not done. It's not that it's right. I'm just saying that's the way it was. So.
It's almost like what they're showing here. Yeah, women's the women's duty is like maybe to God if they're religious, then their man, then presumably children, and then maybe job would be like fourth on that list.
They didn't even have jobs. 90% of them
she's a nurse on a starship.
Yeah, she got a job. Yeah. She got a damn good job, really.
My immediate family. Every woman in that family didn't have a job hardly. Yeah. The only one who did was Aunt Clarice. She worked at the House of May. That's all we want.
Well, yeah, and obviously this was progressive for the time. And we always have to kind of remember that. But it's all. But I think it's also we're watching it 55 years later, and I think the question we have to ask ourselves: does this still hold up or not? And in some ways it doesn't.
Well, I don't think it holds up now, no, but back then.
It largely, I think a lot of original series does, but not every moment, not every scene.
I think watching this now, for the last 5 months, consistently is not the treatment different races, but certainly the treatment of women is definitely 1960s focus, and it was not great.
No.
I think they treated Chekhov and Uhura and Sulu just fine. But women in general are just, what do they do with it? Kiss him.
Yeah.
Like,
right. And just the way like Kirk's manhandling Andrea in this episode.
Right? Oh yeah. And every woman that ends up being like some sort of love interest of somebody on the show ends up like getting thrown around and stuff. And, usually it's against their will at first. And then finally they're okay with it. And it's like, all right, whatever.
Even that scene, the second scene where Andrea and Kirk were together, like he grasped her on those,
grabbed her by the arms. And
I got a fun fact tip about that later on.
But when he took his hand away, man, there was like fingerprints, like you could see it in the high def, right? It was anyway, very different times, I guess. And the costuming, I'm not arguing with the costuming. I quite liked it.
No, especially the one costume there was all right.
It was fine. Yeah, covered all the important parts.
I was okay with it.
Well, and talking about showing some skin, what about the whole scene where Kirk gets transformed into, where they create the Kirk android?
Yeah.
And this is Shatner maybe at his fittest, I gotta say here. He's shaved.
Well, this is before Chubby Shatner in the third season. So this is first season stuff. This is first season Shatner, man. This is prime Shatner.
Yeah, I kept thinking when they made Andrea, though, would she have, her boobs would have been hanging out,
right? Most likely, Dave. Yes.
Yeah,
spinning around that table.
Right. And this goes on.
Would just take over.
This goes on for a long time. This creation of the Shatner android from a lump
you can hear in Dave's voice.
Well, okay, like
I can hear your giggles, be like pre-giggle going on there, bud.
Well, it was mostly, I think, Rock and Andrea working those controls, like really like turning random things, like
there was no rhyme or reason to it. It was just like, dial, switch, button.
Yeah. We got a comment here from Jane. She's allowed to have her job until she got married, presumably to Corby in this case, then expected to get out of the service. And Kirk says as much in other episodes, right? So
that's true. Yeah, very much so.
You're allowed to have a job. You're allowed to be in the service until you get married, and then your obligation is to something else. Is what they keep trying to tell us.
This is supposed to be the future.
Well, but could there be something to that in the fact that the reason that Majel Barrett's not playing the first officer, and she's instead playing this new nurse character, is because the NBC studio execs said no one will believe a woman first officer, so you have to redo the show without that, and then Spock becomes the first officer. But is the writing maybe a reaction to that note from the studio?
Wouldn't shock me.
Anyway,
like that's a reasonable thought.
But okay, and back to the android creation. When Kirk gets turned into the android, was he?
Wait a second. Let's go back to that for a second, because you have, the other shows of that time that I remember watching, Batman, Lost in Space. Like Lost in Space, I don't think was that. Like you had pretty strong women on that show. The original I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No.
Robinson.
Well, even in Batman, when you think of Batman, there isn't a lot of like women handling in Batman. Like all the women that are pretty predominant in a story usually are powerful women, right?
Yeah.
Like they're either villains or Catwoman or any of those type of things. Batgirl, yeah. So all of them are like strong figures. So yeah, I think your point's valid, Adam. This is probably not the norm. Or at least I wouldn't think it would be.
Even, I used to really like Lost in Space, and I don't think it was like it didn't portray women in that particular way.
No, because mom was already a scientist or something like that.
Yeah, and so was Judy. The daughter.
True, yeah, the daughter also was. Yeah. So yeah that's a good point.
What do you think the percentage of women in the United States Armed Forces in 1968 was? What percentage of people?
1%? Less than that?
It's probably just 1%.
Somewhere below 2.
Somewhere below 2%. Okay, we're in the range.
Yeah, which would make sense because it was a very male-dominated industry at that point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I mean, like, listen, it's a great show. I'm not saying anything negative about it. I mean, the fact of the matter is,
but it is a point, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think if we watch this 20 years again, like from now, or we watch this again 20 years from now, it would probably even be further removed from our experience of today, and that's okay. Like, it's, it doesn't make it bad per se. Like, it's
No.
Well, the point of this rewatch is to experience this in today's times. Like, that's kind of the whole point of it, right? So,
yeah, exactly. I mean, look at Discovery and the female characters on Discovery versus the female characters in original series. Now,
I got tons of notes for the Discovery show tomorrow. I'll tell you that.
That's tomorrow.
I got a whole. This is just some of them.
I might have to tune in and watch that one.
Oh, I think these boys think I'm going to be really nice about Discovery. But I rewatched it all again, and I got some problems with it.
All right. Okay.
Anyway, but that's for tomorrow's show. That's an early plug. Early plug for you there, Dave.
We're on at 9 tomorrow. But just on that, okay, so once Kirk realizes that he intends to send this copy android of himself up to the ship, Kirk quickly devises this strategy for beating Corby on this. He implants this suggestion into his mind saying, "Spock, you dirty half-breed," or whatever. As he's being, I think that's what he said, right?
That's almost word for word. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's pretty much what it was. Yeah.
And knowing that, but this was kind of like a big Hail Mary play from Kirk, wasn't it?
This is pretty stretching.
He didn't know this was going to work.
Yeah, there wasn't much opportunity to guarantee that one.
He knew that if the guy did use that, the android did use that Spock would pick up on it.
Right. Well, like the android Kirk doesn't even realize he said it. Like once he gets up to the ship and meets up with Spock, and he gets
angry in his ready room or whatever, and he gets all pissed off, and he like yells at him, and then he's like, "Okay, bye," and he just kind of walks like,
"Oh, is something wrong? Is something wrong, Spock? Did I say something?" It's almost like he doesn't even know he said it. The android Kirk. Okay, and let's maybe talk about him a little bit because we don't get too many scenes with him, but his final moment. He's cooler than the real Kirk because he comes in and then he starts talking. He's going to have food with Chapel, but then he turns out to be, this is all a ploy by Corby to find out if she's loyal to him or to Starfleet in the mission. And she kind of declares a stance of neutrality. Then Kirk comes in and, he's like, well, I do eat, but he's wearing the exo clothing or whatever. And they have this little banter back and forth. Did anyone else enjoy the Shatner talking to Shatner or Shatner playing against Shatner in this scene? We get it a few times in original series and the movies for that matter. But
every time I see Shatner talk to himself, I always think to myself, that must be his ultimate dream.
Doing a scene with himself.
Like literally doing there's no better actor but me. It's like
that happened when he got in a fight with himself in one episode a few weeks ago, where he was at the penal colony.
Yeah, like there's.
And that was another episode where there was a guy who Kirk loved at the academy, and he was a great man, and he wanted to know more about him and all that stuff. Seems like there's a lot of that same kind of thing, eh?
Yeah, for sure. And we also get some more details here because like he starts asking the androids questions. Namely, they talk about Kirk's brother, Sam, who will die in another episode of the original series, who we see the alternate version, the Chris Pine version briefly in that movie of his brother, Sam. But we find out that he has 3 children, Sam. So the Kirk has 3 nephews. I don't know if they, or nieces. I'm not sure if they get into gender specifically, but I thought that was okay. That's interesting. Like that Kirk has this bigger family out there that we don't explore a ton. And then, but what about Kirk's whole plan here to unravel the rope from under his antique chair to then strangle the android Corby, who's supposed to be an android, by the way.
Does he know he's an android at that point? I don't think so, right?
He does know.
No, only when they got into the fight.
Right, because right before the fight, he starts talking about, well, I just created a copy android of you, but I could have put all of your mind and soul into the android itself, which is kind of like the bigger, more existential question of this whole premise, of this whole science fiction premise. Is this still Corby or not? You know, the episode gives us this conclusion that it's not. This is now some kind of a soulless, maybe more evil, corrupted version of what he was. But this is not the same person. Kirk says Corby was never here at the end. I don't know if we have to maybe.
Well, he would have had to have been there at one point or another, because that's how they made the clone of him.
Yeah, but while the Enterprise is there. But so Adam, and Jody, as I know you two have both seen Star Trek Picard. Spoilers for Star Trek Picard if you don't want to know, but Picard at the end of that episode series ends up in an android body, much like we saw here with Corby and what they were trying to do. And we talked about that. Is that still Picard or not? And I guess how does this episode relate to that and sort of the bigger Star Trek world of androids and whatever? Adam, first.
What so you're asking me about in general, is Corby still Corby?
My question is if Corby, okay, where do you stand on this argument? Is this Corby or not?
Yes, it's Corby. I think if you transfer your consciousness and it's Corby. I mean, Nurse Chapel, who was his lover and whatever she was. Anyway, she didn't notice. She did not notice. And if the android body is as good as the mind, I think there's who cares? I'd love to be transferred into an android body. That'd be fantastic.
Jody, what are your thoughts?
Not that.
Oh my God. You live forever.
I don't want to live forever, man. Half the fun of the experiences is knowing that you only have a limited amount of them. And
no, we got enough time. We need more time.
Yeah, well, I think the value is higher there when you know that you only have a limited amount of them. But overall, to answer your question, Dave, I don't believe that this is the real Corbin or Corba or whatever the hell his name is. Corby, is it? I don't think this is the real Corby. No, this is obviously a copy. We know that obviously at the end anyway, but is this the one that she knows? It's a reasonable facsimile of it, but
but a facsimile, like, okay, if the questions, and we talked about this when we did the Picard podcast, especially that finale podcast, I said that this is, I don't think it is the same person anymore. I think it's a new person. I think you could even make an argument it's a sentient life form that deserves rights and whatever.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a life form or not. I'm just saying that it's not the same person. It's not the
You're
same
saying it's not,
entity.
but Adam's saying it is the same. It's if you believe in the soul, that's what they say here. That can your soul go into this android? And I stand on the position of no. You're kind of creating a new life form based on.
I'm with you.
On the old life form, because the life form still died, right? Like Corby's mind and his body died, and so did Picard.
Yeah, but listen, if you transfer your whole consciousness, there's no memory loss. He thinks he's the same guy. Nothing's lost.
Mm-hmm.
What? Like, it's just a shell, guys. Like, just a shell.
It's a shell. It's an interesting argument. I don't think we'll ever come to a conclusion.
I don't think we have the time in this podcast to actually get really deep into this, but
it's an interesting thing to ponder.
I understand the points on both of your guys' sides here. I'm more of Dave's side on this one, but it's whether or not it is or not really doesn't bear much of a difference here in this scenario, because who cares about Nurse Chapel and her feelings?
In this scenario, no, but I think that this is going to continue to come up in Star Trek.
And we're not absent from it even in the newer shows like Picard and even Discovery, which I think we're going to see some stuff in that. But again, that's a tomorrow discussion, not today.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Yeah,
it's going to be a doozy, though. I'm telling you.
So that's what that whole thing where he tries to strangle Corby with the rope really feels weird. And it even kind of works is weird. And then Kirk running through the caves away from Rock which I feel like goes on for way too long.
Oh God, it's like a never-ending. It's like the never-ending story when it comes to that tunnel.
Yeah, he's like, wait, and then like Ruck's like looking around the corner, not sure if he's in, and then he starts doing the chapel voice, and Kirk falls for it. And,
oh my God,
right?
Kirk
and
has to be one of the dumbest humans ever. Like he always falls for this shit. Like earlier in the episode, he was doing voices. Come on.
Yeah, he already showed you this ability, and then he was gonna hit him with this like big
dildo
thing, whatever. Yeah, it looks like. Like,
you know what? We should start every episode, like the recorded one. We should start it with a quote, like they do with some podcasts, where it's like a quote from the podcast. That definitely should be the one for this one. It's a giant penis,
and it didn't work. No. He tries to hit Ruck with it; it doesn't work.
What were they really going for on that? Put that object back up again for me, if you could, Dave, for a second. What were they going with on this one, Adam? That's what I want to know. Where are they going?
I think they were going for something very, very obvious there.
They're going for a giant penis, is what they're doing. There's no debate here. What's that?
A stagolite or a stacylite?
Yeah, but it's got a curve at the end there.
How did you come across as that, though?
Jody, I gotta admit, I felt the same way when I saw that. I was like,
everyone did. How could you not? Especially,
like it's literally like there he is getting ready to go attack.
Women, this is the favorite part of the episode for most women.
We'd have to ask them. All right.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and then like when he's about to fall off another bottomless pit, were you afraid for Kirk when he was maybe going to fall down a second bottomless pit until pulled him back up?
I got over it, but back in that day in the 60s, that was pretty scary.
Yeah, well, and your fear of heights maybe is.
Yes.
Well, if you have a fear of heights, that would definitely do it for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's.
Just think about falling into a bottomless pit.
Like every time I hear bottomless pit, I think of the Simpsons episode, the baseball one, where I think it's Ozzy who's like taking pictures in like the limbo land of do you know the one?
Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I digress. So yeah, like this other thing where Kirk is not killed by Ruck because earlier in the episode, Colby had told Ruck he has to follow Chapel's orders because Kirk kind of suggested that to Colby. So like again, like Kirk is shown to be clever, right? Like there's a series of things here where he's clever sometimes, but then other times he can't figure out that he's being duped by Lurch impersonating Majel Barrett. But it's all good. But this is where he then again logic he talks the computer to death. In this case, it's a walking, talking computer in Ruck. He's like, well, what happened to the old ones? Where did they go? He starts like postulating. He's like, oh, that's right. I remember.
He's getting his Kirk killing computer by talking them to death on there.
Right.
That's where he was starting. It was starting.
He's able to help Ruck remember from this long, long time ago that the people who built him, that his android kind had eventually turned against, like Battlestar Galactica style or Terminator style, like again classic thing where androids will rise up to destroy their human masters, or their organic masters. And so he was in the. Just when Ruck is about to kill Kirk, this is where Colby comes in, and this creates this confrontation with Colby and Ruck. And Colby kills Ruck very fast. He's just like, pew, and he vaporizes him. And things kind of really start to spiral fast from there for Colby. He calls Andrea, right? And he's like, protect, we need you, because he's the only android that he has left other than Kirk. But feeding into that earlier episode where real Kirk was trying to put the moves on Andrea, and confusing her with all these emotions that she's not supposed to have, right?
That's kind of the impression you get. Was that, but I don't know. Yeah,
because we saw that the Kirk android, despite having all Kirk's memories, doesn't seem to have any emotions. Right? He's like, please kiss me. And he's like, no, it is illogical. Right? And then she vaporizes him.
Yeah, that's pretty harsh.
She thought she was killing the real Kirk, right?
Yes. She thought she was killing the real Kirk, but it turns out that wasn't the real Kirk. The real Kirk was in the other room.
Well, she's not a very smart android.
She's not the brightest android in the pack there, I guess.
Right. So when she walks into the next room, she has like this sense of dread because she killed an android, I guess. And then there's this whole, we find out, Colby's an android, Christine's afraid of him, blah blah blah, and there's this whole ending here where she goes to kiss Colby, and then he kills them both, right? Because he's the one who pushes.
Yeah, he kind of brings the phaser up so it can hit both of them and just hits the button basically.
But Andrea didn't want to die.
Well, so I don't think she had a choice in that scenario. But
no. But it was just
I don't. You didn't get the impression she wanted to. No.
Yeah, and so I guess the ending is okay. So by the end of this episode, everybody we've met throughout the course of this episode, including two of Kirk's crew, are dead.
Yes.
Colby's dead. All of his androids are dead.
There's a pretty good kill count on this one when you think about it. There's out of the people on the planet, there's probably 5 people that died. If you count the androids, right?
Well, yeah, and let's assume that
5 of them, and then you had the two red boys,
2 red shirts. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you got 7, 8 people dead here.
By the android ending. And so it's kind of this real kind of somber affair, and then they just leave. And then
traditional Star Trek.
The very ending of the episode is Kirk or Spock saying, "Well, I didn't like you saying half-breed," and Kirk's and Kirk almost defends using it. It's kind of
you almost get the vibe of shut up. I'll call you half-breed if I want.
He's like, well, I was taken aback, I think Spock says, and he's like, well, if I'm ever in that situation again, I'll try to be more polite or something like that.
Yeah, he says something like that.
It's not good. The whole exchange there either. So, and that was what our little girl's made of, which this title of the episode is never said. I was like, what does this even mean?
No.
I had to look it up. Maybe Jody, if you want to take over, you can hit some fun facts.
Alrighty. Well, I even got the tablet here for the fun facts today, so I can actually not look like I'm constantly like this. Anyway, all right. So the first mention of Captain Kirk's brother, George Samuel Kirk, who is married with children. So that's the first time that he was ever referenced in the series, which is interesting, I guess, to a degree.
I thought so.
Yeah, the script for this episode was in such bad shape that Gene Roddenberry had to make revisions simultaneously with the filming of this episode, and shooting had to wait until new pages even arrived. So that kind of gets back to my point. It's terrible.
Yeah, I think it's a little fragmented, and I think that's maybe that speaks to this whole rewrite thing.
According to Sherry Jackson, which I'm pretty sure is if I'm not mistaken, it's the lady in the rather revealing outfit.
Andrea,
yes. William Shatner's chest had to be shaved for his nude scenes in the android machine.
I said so. I knew it.
You had that one right on the mark, Dave. Right on the mark.
Yeah, he's not naturally hairless.
Sherry Jackson's revealing costume never failed to get an unenthusiastically appreciative response, whether it be stunning a noise commissary into silence when the actress showed it off there, or when it was displayed at a San Francisco convention and the model for it found herself being approached by a large number of men, including Harlan Ellison, who tried to secure a date with her. So, that's yeah.
The great Harlan Ellison.
What's that?
The great Harlan Ellison.
There you go. DeForest Kelley, James Doohan, and George Takei do not appear in this episode at all. Not even in a voice or anything. Which is kind of interesting, I guess. But in a way, it kind of makes sense considering first season.
Yeah. I feel like McCoy not being here is maybe the bigger one.
McCoy is the weird one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on
He's
that.
always
there. Yeah.
What would you be needed for? There's no androids.
Yeah.
It's all androids and they had chapel.
Yeah.
The title is based upon a nursery rhyme, what little girls have made of, sugar and spice and everything nice, and that's what little girls are made of. So there you go. It came from a nursery
Girls
rhyme.
are made from sugar and spice, and boys are made from snips and snails.
Maybe, I don't know. All I got's what's written here, Dave. I can't help you.
And puppy dog's tails.
And puppy dog's tail.
What are snips and
Puppy
snips?
dog tails.
So Dave, here's another one back to you. This is the third episode. Now we're only on what, episode 8 or 9 in the first season?
9, yeah.
This is the third episode in which Captain Kirk appears bare-chested. So he's got a pretty good range for that first 10 episodes.
I think he had to take his shirt off during the audition.
Maybe that was part of it. They're like, okay, just so you know, Kirk goes topless a lot.
Episode that was written by Robert Bloch.
Robert Bloch, who went on to write many episodes.
Yes.
And you know which other episodes he wrote?
Not
The Wolf in the Fold and Cat's Paw.
Cat's Paw and Wolf in the Fold. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. There's actually a thing about Cat's Paw in here. The sound of the Android turntable gaining speed as it spins, is that similar to the Enterprise going into warp drive? So that's good to know, I guess. Definitely this angle is not flattering for me. Anyway, I just happened to notice that on the monitor. Thought I would share. Age is not going well for me.
Miri up on the screen behind you next week,
What's that?
so we can remember.
What?
Put Miri up instead of what little girls are made of.
Okay, I was trying to go the whole episode by not saying Miri for Adam, and you ruined it. Anyway. Let's get back to some fun facts before we're done here. Brown and Andrea both used older style laser pistols seen in the pilots for the original series, The Man Trap. So they're the same.
They looked familiar.
Same pistols, Dave. So you had a good eye on that one for sure.
Well, I didn't put it together that was that, but yeah, now that you've said it, it is.
Yeah. And also just to add to that, this episode marks the final appearance of the early black and white Phaser 2. It was replaced by the more detailed blue, gray, and black models.
Yeah, it's like that, the smaller, compact one.
Yeah. Kirk's walk to the turbo lift in this episode from his quarters is actually stock footage from the original series episode, The Man Trap. He does not have in his hand the command packet he receives from the safe at the moment before. So if you actually look, he doesn't have it with him because they use stock footage from another episode.
Okay.
There you go. Little way to save some money, I guess. I'm just seeing if there's any other what I consider interesting ones. Oh,
here's one, Jody.
Go for it.
This episode marks the first death of a red shirt.
Really? I don't have that on mine.
And it starts with Matthews. Matthews down that bottomless pit was the first red shirt ever to die.
Let's all have a moment of silence for Matthews. Oh, here you go. Body count 7. This includes 2 humans, Matthews and Rayburn, and 5 androids, Brown, Ruck, Android Kirk, Andrea, and Corby. So there you go. We got it right. 7. Well, I think I said 8, so maybe I was a little bit off. But anyway, this show has essentially the exact same plot that was used 1 year earlier in 1965 by Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. I don't know anything about that. I'm guessing it's a show.
Bottom of the Sea?
Yep.
It was a show, I guess. This contains the first of many Captain Kirk death scenes in which an android duplicate is disintegrated by a phaser. So, there you go. Past that, I don't think there's a hell of a lot more we need to talk about, quite honestly.
That's good. Yeah, you were more concise than Jeff is, so it's good.
Yeah, I don't like to go through all of them because it takes forever and no one has time for that.
Yeah, it's like a top. It should be like top 10. You know.
Well, I gave you the juicy ones. This episode's pretty boring, so
you gave good ones. Okay, let's rate this episode.
All right.
So
I can't wait to hear Adam's rating.
Yeah, let's start with Adam. Adam, where does this compare to Miri? Adam,
I did like. Wait, what did I rate Miri? By the way, I want to see.
Let's find out. You gave Miri 7.
All right. Yeah, this was
how long ago Miri was, and we're still talking about it though.
I know. Every episode, Jody. Every week.
For the record, it was Ted this week.
It was 20. That was our 23rd podcast, and we are now on 41.
All right. So Dave, 8.5.
8.5. Okay.
I like this episode.
Hey, Jody, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm gonna give this a 5. It is bland. It is vanilla. It is just, oh, come on. I don't know what your hard on is for androids, but this is not it. There's even better android, episodes and later seasons of the show.
I thought you were going to say, for Andrea, not androids.
Oh, well, that's different. Okay. If you're given an extra 2 points for that, then I understand your score.
Dad, you're next.
Yeah.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'll go about a 7.3.
7.3. Okay. I'm only going like 6.5 on this. It's fine, but it's not blowing my sock.
Hold on. What did I give Miri?
You
go back up to Miri.
Go to Miri. You gave it a 4.5.
Yeah, I like this better than Miri.
Yeah, just
what? I'm gonna change my score. I'm gonna give it a 6.
6. Okay.
Because you know what? Come to think of it, there was parts that were entertaining.
Jeff is not with us tonight, I presume because the Leafs are on. So it is the four of us average at a 7.1.
Right.
And this is a 7.5 on IMDb. It's about 7.3 when you take those two together.
I'm always the one that brings the score down, though.
So this is kind of like, so based on all that, we're kind of it's just below average. It's kind of in that ballpark. It's not as good as much as we liked last week, although maybe for some of us. Yeah, so interesting. And what is the next episode?
Well, I was going to defer off to Adam if he's got an episode he wants to see.
Sure, I've got one.
Okay.
Yep.
Let that be your last battlefield.
We've already done that.
We already did it.
Yeah, that was early.
Early on.
That was what I like to call pre-Adam.
All right.
Yeah. Adam didn't join until, as you can see, until this point.
Yes.
So there was about 11 episodes you missed.
Oh yeah, okay, I see. Yeah.
Sorry, that was my one that I was always waiting on. Okay, I don't have one then. I pass on.
I know that there's been episodes we've thrown out. I wasn't expecting to have to think.
I can pick one. I have one.
I'm just looking at the name.
Well, and we've officially gone past the halfway point, so there are fewer episodes left than there are.
What about Where No Man Has Gone Before?
You want to do the original pilot, like the original Kirk pilot?
No, that's not the original pilot.
Like it's the Kirk pilot.
It's the original Kirk pilot.
Yeah,
it's like not the original pilot though.
But Where No Man Has Gone Before?
Let's do it.
All right.
But
that's the Gary Mitchell story. Okay, so yeah, that's we'll do that one. We'll do the original, that's like season 1, episode 1, I believe, right? So, okay, so that's in the books, and noted for the next one because I might not remember if I don't write that down, and we'll be back next week to talk about that next Wednesday as we continue our TED trek through all the original series episodes.
Adam, I'll give you next week, okay? You come up with another one.
Yeah, I'll be ready. I'll be ready for next week.
I can send you the list just to make sure you know.
Yeah, send me the list, please. Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, so you know which ones maybe you weren't here for.
Okay, you don't pick 8 episodes that we've all done.
All those ones we've done. Great. And also here on Live Long and Podcast, we do Tuesday nights. We do Deep Space Nine rewatches. We've been watching every episode in order. We are almost done season 2. We just did last night The Wire, which was the 22nd episode of season 2 with Garrett. That was a really good. I would give that episode major props. And we're getting into the end of season 2. Thursdays, we will earlier this year we did I guess it was last year. We did Star Trek Picard, then we did Star Trek Lower Decks, and then we did Star Trek Discovery. And so tomorrow we're going to be doing a season 3 deep dive into Discovery. Jody will be there, Adam will be there. We're also going to be joined by Michael Chan, and Kevin Millard will also be on the panel. And in addition, today we got Mike O'Connor coming in, who guested on one of the podcasts as well. So we're going to have about 5 of us, I think, or kind of.
You're gonna be busy on them video switching.
I'm gonna be busy on the videos, but you know what? It's I'm it's be good to get, especially you, Mike, and Kevin in because you're bringing maybe a more fresh perspective than because Adam and Michael and I talked about it for
Yeah, you already know what your opinions are.
Yeah, 13 weeks, but it's been 2 weeks since the finale, so it's possible some of our viewpoints have shifted. So anyway, we'll be here tomorrow to do that, and then on Friday night, take two, we're going to be doing Star Trek Radio Theater, which we should have done on Saturday night, but the production was not ready yet. So
tell them the real story. You're at the strip club. We get it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, in the pandemic strip club.
Pandemic strip club. Yeah,
exactly. So we're going to be coming Friday night instead with Star Trek Enterprises, In a Mirror Darkly. So we'll be doing that Friday night at 9. Check that out.
We got to figure out when we're going to do our Enterprise rewatch. That's what we got to.
Well, we said we were going to do it sort of when this winded down. So. Like I said, there's fewer episodes left than there were when we started, or at any other point, as we've been going through this podcast.
So you're talking Enterprise, Scott Bakula Enterprise, right?
Yes,
you got it.
I want to be in that.
Yeah,
we already assumed
on that. Oh yeah. Because to find people, and I think Kevin's going to be along for that one.
So to give you an idea, Adam, while we were all kind of waiting around on Saturday to start the Mirror Darkly thing, Kevin goes, "You know what? This was a good episode." And that's very weird for Kevin because Kevin despises Enterprise.
Exactly.
It was a good episode.
It was a great episode. Except for Bakula. Bakula was terrible.
No, it was very good. Bakula was a bad choice.
Oh, terrible. But anyway. Sorry, Dave. I took over your plug. Getting from there to here.
No!
I've had enough of this.
He's like, I've had enough of your Rod Stewart covers. Okay, let's get out of here. All right, so we have all those shows. Check all that out. We also have Trivial Debates, which we do at the end of every month, which I haven't booked yet, which we'll get to. And we have a Super Mater Brothers podcasting as our other channels. I want to thank the panel tonight. We'll be back next week to talk about where no man has gone before. And that's it. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Dad.